Dude, that's how we're gonna start. I have no idea how to do an intro. I did an intro for B-Tran and I was like, I don't want to do an intro ever again. My intro is coffee number two. Slided me the other day and they were like, Nick, I haven't seen you have a two coffee day in a while. You used to post your double caffeine on your story every day. And I was like, yeah, well, maybe finally I found some health in my life. But coming off 5 hours of sleep, picked the mother-in-law up at the airport last night, kind of late. So I cannot be on here with you without extra caffeine.
That's just the standard now. Like the second I wake up, it's actually a miracle if I can get anything done. I'm astonished at what kind of productivity or what kind of at least sentences I can form before I've had caffeine. But the good part about that is caffeine. Like there's no one in existence in my life for the first 2 hours unless my kiddo wakes up early. Like I don't have to deal with that fact most of the time. It's mostly me trying to write something or trying to be productive. And I'm like, okay, I just need to wait like 30 more seconds for this placebo to hit
Yeah.
before anything coherent is coming out.
I swear it's so mental more than it is like truly physiological. Because I'll have days, especially when I'm traveling, where I'll get up and I'll go for a couple hours with no caffeine. You know, on my Huberman shit, delayed caffeine intake, go out and stare at the sun. Maybe that's what it is. I stare at the sun for long enough to get my energy. But now I'm like, oh, I actually don't need caffeine that much. Maybe I'll start getting a headache or something at some point. But like, I think and two, like when I drink coffee, it's like an instant dopamine hit. That's what I feel. It's not the caffeine. It's just like, okay, I've completed the cycle here of whatever neurotransmission shit going on I need to feel good about myself today.
Yeah, I feel like if I start staring into the void and just like paragraphs flow out of me, that's the caffeine. But my ability to function in society is 100% just the caffeination placebo. It just makes me feel better and that I can actually have conversations without like wanting to destroy the world.
It's a very fair play. So tell me more about the dad life. Because how old is the kid now? Over 1 year old, right? Almost
He's
two.
gonna be he's gonna be 2.5 in 5 days.
Two and a half.
Actually,
Shit, so he is two.
he's you go through waves and phases of like I get inundated with memes now because there's like me and like a network of probably about 4 or 5 super close people that I'm friends with, and we developed like trauma bonds over being parents. The willing life experience that we all engaged in, and then we're like, wait a second, I don't know if my personality was right with this, but nah, it's too fucking late now. Let's go. But like when you think you're on your last straw, but there can always be a laster straw, like the like statements like that as a parent. You're just like when you thought you were exhausted, but you had no idea that you were just being lazy with time, shit like that, right? And like that's in every phase, like the newborn phase to maybe 1 year old to full on toddler to now where I'm at about to be 2.5. There's certain developmental landmarks that when you get to, it just like wrecks you all over again. Like the initial one, when you first bring a kid home, you're like, oh God, are they going to die the second they close their eyes to go to sleep? And you're just like paranoid for no reason because you've never done this before. And like you are no longer a child. You are protecting the child. Got it. Then they can start to like crawl or roll over and you 100%, and it's not even like a loose threat. It's like, it is a real threat where they're immediately going to find a staircase and just dive like straight down it. Like they will find a way to hurt themselves. Where we're at now into like full on toddlers where they're actually mobile, moving around, and then exponentially getting taller. So every single time you think everything's safe, you just once a day check, just move the knives like an inch or two further back on the counter. But no, it's now we're in full on like the terrible twos and stuff like that. And you start to realize like, oh, anything a parent ever tells you, like if they're threatening you, like, oh, just you wait, like they're just being a dick. Like we all know it's hard. Got it. Just don't ruin the person's perception of the experience by telling them it's awful because it's awful for you, even though it is hard. But like anytime a parent is telling you something, they're not exaggerating. Like there is no exaggeration to
It's absolutely
like,
true.
oh, everything that's happening. Like my son is in a yes, no phase so hard, or like he'll just tilt. And I mean, remember the sentence I just said. I'm not exaggerating when I say this. From eyes open in the crib, just woke up, to putting on clothes 30 seconds later, happy as a clam, stressing out and crying. For no reason. Zero reason. No problem exists. No decision has been made. No options have been given. Literally nothing has happened. And that's where my brain is just like, I'm not, this phase of child rearing is not me. This, like, it is me because I'm doing it and I have to do it. But I'm like, oh, this is the thing that's going to cause me the greatest amount of stress. because when when it is an illogical emotional response, I just can't handle. I just like, but I don't understand. Let's just hug and try to silence this. Like, let's just figure it out.
I feel like that would be me. Like I would have such a hard time with my current I don't know, emotional state, personality, whatever, like dealing with these situations.
Dude, and then like you go through the emotional volatility, like trying to figure out how to navigate tantrums, stuff like that. And we've done that very successfully. But then all of a sudden, on the other side of it, like, oh, he's potty trained now. Like, we took a weekend and basically just no more diapers, no more pants. And then at the end of the weekend, here's your pants. And then at the end of like a week after that, no more accidents. He just stopped having accidents. And you're like, oh, that he just made like one of his lifelong skill developments in 36 hours. And like wild things like that'll happen. So it's crazy. And it, more than anything else, it shows you how much of a fucking sissy you have been up until that moment in your life, and how much privilege and like how easy your life was, when there is like a consequence to every single thing that you do. Like I was just like suffering through it. But we just went through September through it's like mid-February into probably about mid-March is on average when like the quote unquote sick season starts to trickle out or taper off. And it doesn't matter if I'm sick. I have a wife and I have a son. It doesn't matter if I'm sick. That does not matter. My wife has a real job. She goes to a place and has a boss. I work on the internet. So if she gets sick, yo, go incubate yourself. Go fucking like get better. He's sick, like he's a toddler. Like it's all hands on deck. I get sick, who gives a shit? Keep doing everything, because if both of us go down, the fitness space it loves its metaphors, its mantras, its self-aggrandizing bullshit, but like, oh, no one's coming to save you. Yeah, we like to talk in those terms until you find yourself in those situations, and then you think they're the dumbest, most cringe thing you've ever heard, because people operating outside of the sphere of responsibility, and there's responsibilities beyond just having a child and being a parent, but you get what I mean. Like, most of the time they're operating outside of that space and just self-motivational stuff. And you get into the situation where my whole house has norovirus. We're coming out of both ends uncontrollably. You can't eat. You're depleted. You might pass out at a moment's notice. But my son also has it. So I cannot. Fuck that. Like, I'm going to stay up for 6 days on no food, make sure everybody's okay.
Dude, I think the whole motivational trend shit's so corny. It's like, what are you, fucking Kirkland brand Tony Robbins giving me motivational quotes on Instagram?
Yeah, that's kind of like when you introduce some of the ideas for what we're going to talk about. That's like, that's the end of the day thing you're saying. Like, that's probably going to be my not a hot take. It's just like, oh, we are all trapped in a teenager's mentality in the entire space. And you don't know it until you're confronted with a real consequence and real situations. Then you're like, oh, I can just think those thoughts in my head and get myself through this situation, because it's not actually going to the gym is not the biggest crisis in the world for someone who's an established fitness professional and does this as a career. That shouldn't be something high on my mental bandwidth list.
Dude, like my favorites are the I saw a shirt the other day in the gym, and it's like, the gym is my psych ward. I'm like, no, you probably actually need medication. Like, you should leave the gym and go get medicated. What the fuck are you wearing? Like,
yeah, it's probably the last year has seen me fully streamline every single piece of fat that's in my life. Like, anything that you'd never notice it until you actually have no time. Like, everybody thinks they have no time until they actually have no time. And then you realize what kind of bullshit life you were leading. And you just sort of start skimming things down, or in my case, pulling things back, like pulling back off of like the grind, which is another thing that really was like a trigger factor for me towards the end of what we're going to talk about today. But like the grind culture and being like, oh no, like that's dumb. Let's just not do that. Let's be a real person that just operates at a high level in their profession and then goes back to being a real person after the fact.
yeah. Well, let's elaborate on that. How has being a dad affected your, not only your business and your kind of workflow, but also your training?
Oh, training's been sideways for 2.5 years now. I shouldn't say 2.5. Like, he's about to be 2.5, probably about 2 years. The first 6 months was sick. Then again, as the kiddo develops, and if you're a present and active parent, and you're there for your spouse as well when they're going through like Our kiddo tagged in and out on who the preferred parent was. In the first year and a half, it was my wife, and then she went back to work, and then it was me. So anything that goes down, like I need to be the one that handles it, or else he'll just cascade even harder until probably another year or two from now when he just like breaks the preferred parent model. But my training has been like it's very fluid with respect to the fact that training modality, environment, what I do on any given day, it's wildly more fluid than it ever was. Like the split is whatever. It's gone from like a full bro split. It's gone to like upper, lower, push, pull legs. It just keeps cycling over and over. In terms of the layout of the days, it's gone from full just like reverse engineer your workout and have your typical A1 as the last thing you do because you need everything up until that point to warm you up because you don't have the mental bandwidth or the time to actually warm up, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Huh?
And it's just cycles. Like now he's in preschool full time now, and I am pretty low bandwidth in general. Like I've burnt myself out significantly professionally and personally. And so in 26, it's like basically using that as how do I remodel my entire lifestyle to come out of that? And I've done a very good job of being able to insulate myself and come out of it. But now it's let's use my basement gym now. I've had it for a number of years. And now that he's at school most days, most of the time, I can drop him off and actually come back and use my sanctuary to my own benefit. So it's moved back into free weights again. Like my lower body sessions are primarily orientated around like squats and deadlift variations. I benched for like 30 seconds and I was like, nah, I don't want to. Nah, I'd rather focus on shoulders because my shoulder's been junk for a while. So let's just train it and fix it up. But it's fluid because every time there's a developmental landmark or there's a need for the family, it once again just sort of alters where, when, and how I can actually train successfully, or else I'm just going to sewer myself and be crippled.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think you did a post on that too about kind of reframing your microcycle, which I guess would change a lot based off of life events and whatever's going around, especially if a kid's going through different phases.
Yeah, like there's days like he just got sick again, which means we all got sick again.
Yeah.
But like I'll give you the juxtaposition of like training versus like what the day gives you. So two nights ago, he's lately been getting up pretty much like clockwork, probably around if he goes to bed at 8, probably 3 hours later, around 11 or so. He'll wake up and he's usually half on, half off, good about putting himself back to bed, right? Like he'll wake up, cry for a bit, and then be able to put himself settle and go back to bed. Sometimes he just freaks out, and that's that. And he's gonna if I don't, we've played this game. He can go for an hour or longer, just losing his mind unless someone goes in there. Especially if he's sick and it's like he's like drowning in snot or something like that. Like in those cases, you can't ignore it. You have to address it. But 2 nights ago, literally from probably 11 until 2 in the morning, it was just death and chaos. Like every 15 to 30 minutes, he'd be back up. And so it's like getting like sleep waterboarding or like there's literally just sleep torture. Like every 15 minutes, you're about to nod off and like loud music blasts in your jail cell or whatever. Like this is just him, except it's a child in this case. Versus, so that just shit canned my entire training that day. I've gotten a lot better too about like if you're not prepared, don't do crap workouts either. Just don't work out.
Yeah.
But then last night it was like 8 p.m. until 7 a.m. Bam, solid all the way through. Whole family, everybody's chilling. So it's like I just went and had a sick workout. So it's like being able to turn on a dime and also following through on rest and following through on like, hey, let's scrap it and extend the microcycle or just change something because you literally will not get anything beneficial from this one.
Yeah, it's something I've been playing around with a bit myself. Not obviously, I don't have a kid, but like, dude, around the holidays and my wedding and fuck, what else? Dude, I think I had like 2 months basically where I was gone from home. So like my training was all fucked. I think I had like a 3-week span at one point where I didn't train at all, which like I couldn't tell you the last time that happened. Like literally probably over 10 years. But like getting back into it, I was like, oh shit, fuck yeah, I'm gonna train every day now. So I was like, I finally got into a place with work where my in-person work's not. I'm the least busy I've been in person, and I couldn't tell you how long either. I'm doing like 20 sessions a week. For the longest time, I was pushing that. I was doing like 8 to 10 sessions a week for years. So finally, I started pulling back. Online scaled up a bit more. Like now, I start having more free time. So then, of course, as soon as I get settled in with that, I get more work shit coming on. So I'm like trying to balance all this different stuff. Between in person, online, pre-script stuff, doing my own YouTube podcast now. Started doing some like concierge work for NFL athletes, which is like basically I have kids. I can relate with you because of these people that I work with. It's like having grown ass kids. Anyways, I'll do a whole separate podcast on that.
Yeah.
But it's okay. And I'm gone for a week. Now I'm somewhere else with a new gym. Or, okay, you want me to leave tomorrow? It's okay, well, my training's going to change based off of like when I'm flying, where I'm going to train, you know, what I was planning on doing the week while I was here. So basically it's based off my schedule being so fluid. I'm like, okay, like some days I get 45 minutes. So I'm like, okay, like I'm going to do like 4 exercises. I'm just going to do like a bro split, push, pull, leg. Some days I get 90 minutes. So then maybe I'll do like a full lower body or a full upper body, and I'll throw a cardio on the back end of it. But basically it's maximizing my time. I don't have a set like I'm doing this split every week, but it's like I have a push workout, I have a pull workout, I have 2 lower body days I'm doing, I have a full upper body day I'm doing. And then it's based off the time I'm allocated. Exercise selection might change a little bit. It might do a little bit more, it might do a little bit less. I've been pretty like cardio heavy on the back end. It's just like I've never really focused on cardio up until I started doing Muay Thai, maybe like 3, 4, 5 months ago. I tried getting into it. It's actually been longer than that now. But I was like, I never realized how bad my cardio was until I started doing a sport that required like high cardio. Like you think football has like a high demand for cardio, but it's almost entirely anaerobic. You're 5 seconds on, 25 off. If you're unlucky, you get like 12 to 15 snaps in a row. So what is that? It's 6 to 8 minutes of work, followed by another 10, 20 minutes of rest. So anyways, all that to say, I was just curious your take on training, being a dad, if that sounded similar at all in terms of, okay, like I might have 30 minutes today and I'm not going to wing it. So I probably have a strategy for what I want to do when I have sessions that are going to be 30 minutes long. Or like I have a day where like, you know, the kid's sleeping really good. I have an hour and a half. Like maybe I'm just going to go train for an hour and a half and get some alone time as well.
It depends a lot on the environment. And what I found in the last bit, like my bandwidth for work has actually diminished because of probably sleep deprivation, but also like just fight or flight, just generally having to be on all the time, especially in like a toddler phase where they're wildly overstimulating for someone like me. And it's for everybody, but especially my personality type. And so what that basically manifests in for training is, to your point, I effectively have a roadmap of what I'm going to accomplish, whether it's a muscle group, a movement pattern, something like that. But even training at home, being able to drop him, come immediately home, have my pre-workout in the car while I'm doing it. I get home, I got like 45 minutes in me. That's like 2 hard, maybe 3 movements. So like my squat day will be split squats, like of various sets and rep schemes and volumes or whatever, just to make sure my shit is grooved up. I'll do a workup. I'll figure out what feels good at a heavy enough weight. Do 2 working sets and then maybe a back off, but probably just the 2 working sets. Hit one other thing, maybe a stiff-legged deadlift, maybe an RDL, maybe it's just the machine curl I have. And I'm probably done because it's high enough intensity, but also my bandwidth is just such that like I know anything I do beyond that point, it's gonna be trash. It's gonna be junk. It's gonna be a waste of time. And that's another part of training that has really been highlighted is the consequence of junk. And there's a place for volume pushing here and there if you can't be as intense as you want. But at the same time, there's more of a place for if you can't recover from almost anything, making sure that, okay, well, I can only do my good squats. I got my good, maybe stiff-legged, and maybe I did quad extensions. I could do some laterals right now. I got time for maybe some arms. Like, no, I don't. Like, it's not that important. And even though it's relatively lower, like full body stim, because I don't have to brace, I don't do a lot of stuff relative to the barbell, it's not going to give me an ROI. It's going to give me a psychological like attachment to the fact that I did those muscles or something like that. And maybe I see something different in the mirror, but more than that, like the next day for my next workout, I'll feel even more trash. So there's no point. And then beyond that, like, as you were saying with your training, like it expanded from being predominantly like all muscle work, like bro split, push pull legs, now the barbells, whatever it might be, trying to get in, like condense it within 7 days, maximize my frequency, not like maybe 2 or 3 times a week, but like definitely once a week, hitting everything at least, to, oh no, I need to reintegrate where I used to be, which was very hybrid. It was not hybrid in the sense of what the definition is now, but I was definitely like power building, barbell first, some bodybuilding after, and then it was basically alternating cardio every other day. So stair mill, maybe some wind sprints on a bike, something like that. And I'm like looking at, family history of health issues, looking at my age, looking at the fact that there, again, I have a family now. I'm not saying I felt like I was on my deathbed, but definitely reviewing the negative impact of 6 hours or less of sleep, which I have basically living that lifestyle, compounded with only doing resistance training with less and less volume, but also modest intensity. So like the heart rate spikes you'll get from resistance training, sidebar, for a lot of people, is pretty solid baseline health levels of cardio. Like if you train hard enough, you're getting a dose of just the anaerobic effect of cardio too. Not for me, bro. So it basically reverted back to like almost like a 10-day split of one day is a lift, one day is cardio, and just making sure I'm hitting everything I want to hit, but it can't be done within 7 days or I'll die.
It was too with the whole cardio thing as well. I read this super long, and this doesn't sound fucking hilarious. It wasn't a PubMed ID. I was reading this thread from this this cardiac surgeon on X, for what that's worth. But it's kind of explaining like the difference between, you know, cardiovascular demand when you are creating tons of intra-abdominal pressure, as opposed to when you are challenging, you know, cardiovascular demand when you are more in a relaxed state, right? So being on the assault bike, being on the stair mill, like the way your heart's working, it's not going against tons of intra-abdominal pressure. So your heart is being challenged in different ways, as opposed to being more, you know, stuck in a contracted state versus being more like relaxed with higher ejections. I'm retarded. Don't come to me for cardiac advice. Come to me for training advice. I'll tell you to do your zone 2 cardio or whatever. Shout out Longevity Fitness. We can cover that on the back end.
Yeah.
Fucking Christ. Anyways, but there's like, it makes sense. Okay. Like, you know, I cannot logically say that me lifting weights is cardio. That's actually cope for a lot of people with high blood pressure. It's like, oh yeah, I get enough cardio for my weights. And it's like, well, I could also say for my, you know, 300-pound client who's super out of shape and obviously obese and never been to the gym before, never done any cardio, that the training in the gym actually is cardio for them as a baseline.
Yeah, a little bit of my saltiness is coming back as I just exist sleep deprived, but also I'm getting to be the elder statesman in a lot of circles in our fitness space. Like, I'll be 37 soon, so it's like been around for a long time, seen a lot of trends come and go, and like you touched on the longevity thing that we will just touch on, but like that ascribing new words to things like all the jokes, even of like, oh, anything over 4 reps or whatever is cardio, like all those things, like everybody just grow up. Just do the thing. If we scale it to what is actually benefit, it should be scaled to what the benefit is to the person. Like as you're mentioning, a client, the resistance training could be their introductory baseline level of cardio. But for most people, it's like, if you're in the space long enough to be able to joke about like, anything over 5 reps is cardio, like go do the fucking cardio, bro. Like you have enough recovery, and you probably need to get your heart rate up with intent a little bit more than what you are. Let's everybody just be an adult.
Yeah, dude, like I can fucking hear you breathing from here.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so yeah, in general, like the framework and the paradigm, in a lot of ways, it was like this massive crescendo of, you're a child, whether you realize how much of a child you are or not, going through school, going through early days in career, peak the amount of workload and work rate, both from training as well as career perspective. Find the break point due to changing life circumstances, increases in responsibility, increases in stress, and then kind of bring it all the way back down to the level that it was at when you had less consequence, less responsibilities, by pulling back some of the things that were kind of egregious on your life. And it's not to say that anything that I was doing was, you know, abusive in that respect, or not something that I wanted to do, but it got to the point where, okay, to have one thing, you often have to give up another. And so now to have a family and to have a home, to have the life that I want, and that side of sort of who I am, there's only so far I can go with other things. And then it ceased to be, let's resist that and just keep stretching myself more and more thin, and let's embrace that. And that's reflected in the training style, the training split, trying to deprioritize a little bit of work here and there, and actually insert genuine downtime, not just rest from a training perspective, but actual psychological and mental downtime. And that's something that basically it was the importance was highlighted when I would go to try to sit down to do work that I previously, up until a point, because I was just nose to the grindstone going straight through it. When you're habitually doing it, you don't even notice how bad it's getting. And like, so I would be able to write daily, I would be able to do all my work, whatever it would be. And then when I recognize the maladaptive behaviors and start to pull them back, that's when everything started to get harder. It was like you've gone too far, you've fallen off the cliff, and now you're trying to climb back up from the bottom. And so in those times now, if I do, like I was referencing not long ago, that night, 2 nights ago, where I was like, this is just me, bro. This is just how today's going to go. I'm going to get 3 hours of absurdly broken sleep, and I have to still be a person tomorrow for my clients, for whatever responsibilities I have. Training ain't happening. Writing is probably not going to happen. Things like that, like the pressure to do those things. Because if I were to insert that, even if it was a good night's sleep, but I didn't give myself enough downtime, I can now feel almost immediately the quality is diminished because it feels forced. How fired up I am to write about a certain topic, because truly, I'm sure you're in content creation or doing anything in your life too. When you're well rested, mentally, physically, and you're fired up about a topic, it's stream of consciousness. You don't have to think. You're not really organizing. You're not game planning. So something just triggers you, and then here it is. As opposed to like, I have to curate every sentence way more than I thought I ever had to. I have to really think about how I'm writing. Like, fuck that. No,
when you do, you know it sucks. Like while you're doing it, because I find myself doing the same thing. I think one of the more helpful books I've read lately, it's called Deep Work. This Georgetown professor wrote it. I'll find the author. But he talks about like basically the premise of it is Cal Newport. The premise of it is like not just being busy all the time for the sake of being busy, and kind of what you're saying about like, being able to have like actual downtime, like go for a walk without your phone, like go for a walk with your wife, put your phone down, don't be on your phone. And I find like, and too, he talks about like the difference between like me replying to a client on WhatsApp. I would say it requires a little bit more effort in terms of like, I need to actually watch the video in terms of, like, for me to get back to it, versus me like reposting somebody who posted me on Instagram. So it's like, if you see that I've reposted somebody on Instagram before I've replied to you on WhatsApp, it's not because I'm prioritizing Instagram. It's because probably for the time I've allocated for that, I'm doing like what he calls like shallow work, or like stuff that doesn't take any of my effort really, right? It's like low effort stuff, as opposed to for like higher mental bandwidth task. You want to make sure you're actually allocating like time and resources to do that effectively. But I find, not to digress too far, I find in terms of like content creation, I get all my best ideas when I'm like kind of unplugged. Like I get off my phone, I stop thinking about clients. I'm not trying to think about work, but I just have time. Like, like the shower thought idea. I think the shower thoughts are literally just the fact that like we've turned off all these other inputs and we're having time to ourselves to think about whatever's on our mind, right? And then again, that ends up being like topics that you're more passionate about, right? They're kind of just like off the cuff. I don't have to curate it because it's just there.
That's exactly what I was thinking about too. Like the shower thought, or oftentimes for me, it's the cardio thought. Like I'm locked in like a 30 minute session where I'm not moving. I'm moving, but I'm not going anywhere. And that's usually where the second I'm in a shower and I don't have my phone or whatever, like something will come up and I'm like, fuck. And I just start repeating, like it's a sentence, it's a phrase, it's something that I know will be like the coin in the machine that gets the entire ball rolling. I just need that sentence. I can't forget it, or else it's going to be gone forever, which it will be very quickly. But it's some trigger where it's like, just because everything was silent and my brain could just shake itself loose and settle, all of a sudden, like the creativity comes back or the passion comes back for certain things. And it's not an effort. There's no effort. It's like I'm spacing out basically, and just something shakes loose. I'm like, oh, now I have an entire premise to go off of based upon like 4 words. Like the post I made the other day to date this was strong, not skinny, because apparently on TikTok, it's like a new trend, like skinny trend is coming back. And believe me when I tell you, I'm not on TikTok. I've just heard it by proxy through the other social media lenses and other people talking about it.
Bugera is definitely on the Reddit True Side TikTok.
Truly, absolutely. And just hearing about it enough times, and like having a wife who has had an experience just had a life really more than anything else, and just seeing like how toxic it is. And like, so the phrase strong, not skinny is not something I obviously came up with. People say that all the time as a pushback against a lot of things. And I was like, here, that is the trigger. And now I'm pissed off based upon the secondhand experience of what my wife has gone through, just being a girl in the world, let alone in fitness. And then bam. And just on one hand, you kind of know what you're doing with a tagline like strong, not skinny. Like that's going to be very shareable. It's going to be very easy to pop off. But for me, like if I check it now, it's still probably buzzing. Like it's escaped my circle. For reference, that was not me. It's escaped my circle, and it's just out there, just like popping off over and over and over for whatever virality is like scaled to my follower sort of size. That was a shower thought. It was just like, there's nothing in my world that's really dialing me in that direction. Most of my social media at this stage is just like post something, respond to the people that respond to it, do what I can to stay active. But it's very like hands off relative to what it used to be, from the perspective of, hey, just as you were saying earlier, kind of be present in your life, like get off your phone, get away from the device a little bit more, but also just knowing that I came up in a time where it was like this weird hybrid of evidence based, the way that you and I would call evidence based, where it's science, it's bro, it's experience, it's a ton of things mishmashed. And to me, that was older school T Nation and Elite FTS and like those kind of circles, and some of the people that are still pretty prominent now that evolved into like the mass guys and stuff like that. It was those circles. Whereas now it's just anybody with a social media has a platform to present themselves as an authority figure on any number of topics, when it takes one prodding question, one detailed layer deeper than what they're presenting, to figure out if you have experience in the field. Like, oh, they either know what they're talking about or they're not, or is this a complete like grift, marketing ploy, whatever it might be. So in today's world, it's so much more, it's agitating because there is little to no barrier to entry to present yourself as such. Whereas at least back in those days, even if you look at the less quote unquote science based, or they can't cite a reference for everything they're going to say. Who did I mention? I mentioned like Dave Tate, Jim Wendler, Lee Boys, which you probably cite some shit if you really wanted to. Like some of these like long term top of the heap guys from both a performance level as well as a coaching level, like undeniably high level coaches. Whereas now it's just like some 17-year-old with 69, or sorry, I guess it wouldn't be 69 anymore. It'd be 6'7" in their handle. And now they're trying to act like they're pulling six figures in fitness.
Yeah, it's, dude, don't, we'll get there. I'm thinking of like my coming of age story, which was, I probably got really into training like 2012, like my freshman year of high school. I was like the fat kid. I was a good athlete to like middle school. I got fat in middle school. I was okay. Like, I want to play college football. Like, I have the size for it, but I'm fat. And like, now I'm not athletic anymore. So I didn't like kind of turn the corner on that and get back in the right direction. So I started reading like bodybuilding.com articles. And I was like, okay, whatever. Unfortunately, it was more that than T Nation. So it's like bodybuilding.com articles and like doing programs I saw on there. Luckily, even back then, some of the contributors though were like Lane Norton was on there. I was doing like Steve Cook's Big Man on Campus program. I was doing, well, the worst part about that is the supplements they would push you. Do you remember like old school supplements? I feel like now everybody has a supplement line and like nobody really cares about like the EAAs or like the real basic shit. Cause now it's like talking about drugs is so out in the open. It's all about drugs and peptides and no one cares about like, I remember being like 14 years old and seeing the Muscle Tech amino acid supplement. They marketed this like themselves as, in a 16-week study, participants added like 180% to their bench press. And I was like doing the math on my calculator. I was like, fucking, okay, if I had 180% of my bench press right now, I'm like, I'll be benching like fucking 375 in 16 weeks, dude. Fuck yeah, I'm gonna do this. I remember taking it diligently and like nothing. I mean, maybe I got a little bit stronger. I was like, what the fuck is this? And that was when you get like C4 was like the shit. I guess C4 kind of is now, but now everything's like rebranded towards energy drinks like NO Explode. Yeah. Back when you go in GNC and they would have the cabinet locked up. I'm not even sure if they still do because I don't know who goes into a GNC anymore. You guys have GNC in Canada?
I think we do. I think it's like to me it's pretty pretentious, honestly.
Well, like GNC used to be like the shit. Like you go in the mall and that's like one of the only things in the mall. It's like kind of full. Like that's where you get supplements. That was kind of, I guess, like before bodybuilding.com was like huge. But they'd have the cabinet that was locked up, and they have like certain pre-workouts locked up. And I think at one point they actually had like the Jack 3D with meth in it. But even after that was like banned, I think they just had it for the psychological purpose of like you felt like you were like getting it unlocked because it was dangerous and you're going to get that, and they'd charge your parents like $70 to buy it for you.
You get so huge off of this whey protein, like sort of, but it's just behind the red velvet rope, so it's got to be worth more. Yeah,
dude, do you ever like run a bodybuilding.com program? So you're older than me, so I don't think you were that retarded. For me, it was
No, I definitely was. Don't get me wrong.
okay.
I maybe constructed my own that would have landed nicely and fit perfectly on bodybuilding.com, but I did like my first workout program when I first got to the resistance training phase of my life. And that was like, I had some experience dabbling when I was like 15, 16 in like my junior high and high school gyms and stuff like that. But when I got to university and actually had like a real weight room, like that, it was go time. And so it was like, it started 5 days a week, 30 minutes hard cardio, which is why my heart rate, I can spike it to like 190 and have a conversation now. Like I've just been so self abusive that my heart rate is irrelevant to my whatever. But it was that. And then like arms, fucking cardio, arms, and then maybe chest, and then slowly over like a year I would add in another muscle group until it was like basically a bro split. But I vividly remember the leg day being the most accurate depiction of how fucking stupid I was and how dumb everybody was at that age, where it was like, you're gonna do barbell squats and then deadlifts and then stiff legged deadlifts, and then you're gonna do front squats, and then you're gonna do walking lunges, quad extensions, hamstring curls, leg press and hack squat, adductor machine, and then there's probably something else in there like double calf
Yeah,
raises.
you just
like
do everything.
Fucking
When you do
all of
everything,
the
it has to
things.
work. If you don't miss anything, you're not going to miss anything with your results, right?
And I'm even more mad now because, like, as an adult looking back at that, I was like, I recovered from that somehow. Or I just did it so poorly that I recovered from that somehow. Like, no matter what, I still, within the confines of 6 to 7 days, was doing it again. And I'm like, God, I wish I just had any intelligence whatsoever. But the closest thing I did, Greg Plitt released a workout. This is when I was like, I was already a trainer. I just graduated, but there was a guy at my gym that was doing it. And he was like, yeah, you just do the same workout twice a day, once in the morning, once at night. In the morning is heavy, at night is higher reps or some stupid bullshit. And I'm like, but you look like a potato, which is the litmus test for if something was going to work, is you literally just judge the person that's doing it, not even like the before and afters of like people that have done it full time or whatever it is, or the person that made it. It was like, but you look like a potato, so why would that work?
Yeah, I'm thinking about like the inception of science-based lifting. I think now science-based tends to be like actual like nerd-looking kids, like kids that can't feel the collars in their shirt, to some degree. Or it's like kids that start that way, take a ton of drugs, now they're kind of jacked. I'll leave it up to you to figure out who I'm describing there. But or you're just 5'4". Regardless, I think it's probably a net benefit. But I remember the first introduction to like science-based lifting for me was being on bodybuilding.com and seeing like Jem Stepani, like PhD and whatever from Yale, I think. I'm like, oh fuck, here's like some science, here's some training. I'm gonna go to school, like I'm gonna go to college and I'm getting my degree and some sciencey shit. Like, okay, like I could see how I could like, you know, turn this in the direction of like athletic performance or aesthetics or whatever. And then like looking back in hindsight, I'm like, hey, half this shit was stupid, but like that existed, right? And he looked great. So again, it was the combination of like, you know, proof of concept with having some sort of high education. And I think someone like Lane back then was kind of in the same boat, although I think Lane has stood the test of time a bit better. But then it was so much easier to kind of, I'm talking about an anecdote of one person who I don't think anyone should really listen to anymore, but I think back then it was so much easier to kind of disseminate between like who you should listen to and who you shouldn't to like listen to. Now it's like there's a 16-year-old kid that sounds smart, like looks decent. There's a 25-year-old kid on a ton of drugs that sounds kind of stupid, but like he looks great. And then there's, you know, people with PhDs that are doing whatever the fuck range of motion stuff that you're like, that kind of looks like my shoulder might explode if I try that. And like everyone just sounds so confident in what they're doing, and there's so many more. I would just imagine like from a fitness account standpoint, there's so many more, because back in the days when I started like on bodybuilding.com, just like reading articles and like doing programs and like getting more into training and nutrition, like Instagram was still like cat photos and like pictures of your dinner for the night, right? It wasn't until I think I was like really starting to get in college, like circa 2016, maybe a little bit before that, that like posting on Instagram as a business model like really kind of started taking fruition or coming to fruition. And then when I was in school, I started to figure out, okay, it's actually easier for me to access information there than it is for me to access information in the classroom. Of course, I was learning the basics of like, you know, biology, biomechanics, physiology, exercise physiology, whatever, like the fundamentals. But from a practical standpoint, like that's where I started following guys like Jordan and guys like Eugene and even like Joe Bennett. You know, like there's some people that were out there at the time that were putting out really good content. And even looking back, I don't feel like any of them misled me. I'm sure I have disagreements with certain people on certain topics now, kind of being 10 years down the road from then. But for the most part, it's like really good information. Now I go online and like, dude, I want to put a bullet myself half the time. Like when I'm scrolling through Instagram, I'm not doing it to consume fitness content by proxy of like who we're friends with, who our peers are, and what Instagram feeds us. Of course, we're gonna get fitness content, but really, I'm going to like check out my friends and like hopefully see photos of like vacation and their puppies and stuff. I don't want to see fitness content. Even like when I see your content, for example, I'll read it on occasion, but most of the time when I see you guys' stuff, I support, I like it, and I go on, right? Like that's. I'm sure you're the same way. You don't fucking listen to me talk for half a minute every single day when I post. You probably just see it and like it and go on. Like I know we agree on probably 95% of what we talk about anyways, and we've heard each other talk about shit long enough.
Well, that's something that actually was top of mind with this idea of the podcast too. It was like, okay, we've been in the same circle since like 2020 or so. It's 2026 now. And I guarantee if we were to be confronted with the same client with the same exact problem, we'd have probably two parallel but fairly overlapping strategies to fix whatever the issue might be or to get them towards our goal. And it would be purely at this stage based upon our own individuality, our ability to critically think, and our training philosophy / preferences. But the same people you mentioned before, like Eugene, or like someone's like Sebastian Oreb, the handful of like the high level people back in the day before social media took off as like the quote unquote fitness platform, they also would have a body of work of evidence, either their own training or their client successes, to validate what they're saying. And then when you really dig deep, most likely about probably like 80% of what they're saying is going to overlap fairly significantly. And the last 20% is, again, training philosophy, maybe their own experimentation, stuff like that. Whereas people emerged in this explosion of social media over the course of probably the pandemic era, where they didn't have any evidence of what they're saying. So they had to go down the route of science only. And it became a pissing contest of, I'm going to somehow upend the success of this established person by getting into a fight with them in the comment section, being like, you need to be able to cite all of your sources. Like,
literally go fuck yourself. You're a grifter.
As someone that's performed science and is potentially thinking about going back and doing more, you know what I'm not doing? Anything to do with PubMed on social media. Like, that's not the place for it. I've always been very much so into the idea that social media is it's a conversation starter. It's not an education platform in earnest. The things that happen after you've had your interest peaked, conversations, courses, that's where the actual education lies. But yeah, it's this thing where people just like, they cross-pollinate social media dopamine hits and bullshit and then try to pass it off as though they're educating people when they really just want to go viral or be a contrarian or just like get the attention of like people they view as on a pedestal. Compared to everybody else, it was just like, hey, this is what worked for me. It's worked for a number of years. This is how successful I am with it, with my clients. Maybe you should try it too. Here's how I would solve that problem. But now it's a huge thing of just like, well, if you can't cite your sources, insert whatever like legacy hero of the industry, you're wrong, and I'm gonna make my entire career off the fact that I said you were wrong. Like, what is this?
And there's just so many massive flaws with that too. Like, if I were to learn degree right here, I don't have this. I'm trying to flex on my podcast or my YouTube. This was there before I put my office here, but I could do exactly what I do now without having that. I think it helped build a good base for me. But I think one of the most important things I could take from school is having a research methods class, and also having professors that were very, very on the ball of teaching us in the classroom that like, hey, research can have a lot of flaws, and like, here's what to look for, right? So I mean, like when people, especially in training, they're like, oh, look at the research. I'm like, this research fucking sucks. Like, 6 weeks of fucking lab rat kids doing calf raises on one leg and the control group is their other leg, and it's like, for 6 weeks, you're gonna look at hypertrophy for 6 weeks, like seriously, and like it's like n equals 12. And then you're going to like make your title like seated calf raises are dog shit. It's like, fucking literally go fuck yourself. Like, maybe they are, right? And like, I'm not even saying that that's the hill I'm going to die on. Like, we should be all be doing seated calf raises for hypertrophy, but I mean, that's just like a general statement. It's like, okay, like nobody knows how to read research, and there's people that do, but like for the most part, people see research and like, oh, research says this. And I remember being fresh out of school, and one of my friends from college, I was talking more about nutrition stuff back then when I first graduated. And I was talking about the importance of eating meat for, getting, complete protein sources. And he messages me and he sends me a Harvard study. And he's like, Nick, I just want you to know it's very irresponsible for you to be telling your audience that red meat is healthy for you. Here's research that says quite the opposite. And it's some fucking meta-analysis from Harvard, observational data. And I'm like, dude, so I start to explain to him, like, what was your major again? Oh, economics. Did you take any research studies classes, you dumb fuck? Like, I was going in on him. So I was so aggravated, but he genuinely didn't know. He's like, oh, I just saw Harvard. I saw research. I knew Harvard was a good school and like they must have the best research. Therefore, this must be true. And it's like, no, there's different types of studies, right? There's different things to look for in terms of, confounding variables, in terms of what's the sample size, who did the study, right? Was there any financial incentive on them to say something, should go a certain way for themselves? So aside from that, I think one of the more like interesting podcasts I've listened to this year was when Shallow had Alec Blennis on. And he's like, yeah, I was like a physics major from Georgia Tech. And he's like, when you're taking physics class, and I related this a bunch, not because I was a physics major, but I had to take physics for my degree a couple times. And it always starts with assume that there is no friction, or assume constant straight line motion, or assume velocity is constant, right? We're making a lot of assumptions here. And especially with training in the human body, it's like, I think making assumptions is very good. A lot of the time, like a lot of the heuristics that we have for success with our clients is built on assumptions, but also we need to be open to the idea that like maybe there is a flaw here, right? Maybe we can't assume this all the time, because if we do assume it all the time and we stop getting a result with somebody, or we can't get a result with a certain person, it's like maybe one of those assumptions is the issue. But anyways, looking at research, it's like we're making a lot of assumptions to extrapolate anything from most research people push in front of us. So that's one thing. And the other thing is like, science-based and evidence-based is not the same to me. Maybe this is a bit like semantical in nature, but like to me, science-based is, and I had someone in the gym come up to me the other day and they're like, dude, I love YouTube videos. Like, you're science-based, aren't you? What the fuck else would I be? Like, I don't know what the opposite is. Am I just like throwing random shit out for my clients to do? Or am I just talking about random stuff online? I guess the opposite would just be experience-based with no science background. Would that be the opposite? But anyways, it's like, science-based is rooted in what? Principles. So literal, physics, biomechanics, right? And then whatever training principles we want to talk about. And then to me, evidence-based is, okay, I have tried doing these things with these clients or with myself, and I have gotten these results, right? So if I'm an evidence-based practitioner and I'm saying I'm evidence-based, but I don't fucking train people in person, it's like, I'm not evidence-based. I'm science-based. I don't have the other half of that equation. I think there's a lot of people that are very strong on the practical hands-on side of things that maybe don't have the formal education, don't have the science background, that could probably tell you a lot that's going to show up in the research just based off of practical application. Or like it gives you a better ability to disseminate. It's like, oh yeah, well, like that research sounds a little bit funny. I'm going to read into it with a sense of skepticism, because in my own practice, I don't see that to be true. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll learn something, but also it just gives you a bit more of a filter, right?
Yeah, people are looking for finality. They're looking for an answer. And the answer comes from results. But it's an evolving thing. It's never this one static thing. It's anytime you see a research paper, even a meta-analysis, this is a summary of the totality of evidence on this particular subject matter at the time. It could change, it could evolve over time, or it could get even more cemented by ever increasing levels of evidence that support it more and more and more. But what is beautiful about science is that it is supposed to be like self-correcting, and it's supposed to be something that offers you essentially the best practice, but not the only practice, especially in the fitness space. So anytime there's a fitness related paper that comes out, it's oftentimes going to be measured against a control, and it's a lot of the time going to be measured against maybe even a different exercise protocol. And when those things happen, like the even recently the stretch position or the shortened position or the mid-range or standard exercise, you'd apply this to like tempo research, a ton of different things where the internet or people that are reading it want to find something that tells them what is the exact thing that you should be doing for you or for your client, when those things don't exist. But what does exist is, hey, what we found in this literature is insert whatever experiment we did showed increased hypertrophy potential from this protocol relative to this protocol. What that doesn't say is that it was this one worked and this one didn't. What it says is they both worked, which is fucking sweet. This one, maybe in this context, might work a little bit better. And then you can apply that. If you're in that exact context, maybe try it. If it didn't work, the other style still works. It's that it's giving you a subtle edge, and it's those stacking 1% changes that will help to drive the entire industry forward. But in the age of the internet, in the age of accelerated quote unquote learning, which is really just like, I mean, you could throw in AI, ChatGPT, things that are just summarizing things without any sort of understanding of what's being actually regurgitated. People are getting the a massively sort of glossed over perspective on what it means and actually how to apply things. And that's where you start to have people get into basically knife fights on the internet because they presume what they have been told or who they're parroting is giving them a definitive where a definitive doesn't exist. I actually had that with there's someone that one of the few people I'll train in person very sporadically. They were making a post about, I believe it was back training. And just the way that they were speaking was tailored to their audience, their clientele base. But because they are a girl that is in fitness and posts on the internet, they have a following that is not just their clientele base. And then someone decided to get all up in their comments, basically doing the old, well, actually shit. And you could literally, if you've been in the space whatsoever for any period of time, you could pull on the thread of what they were saying and trace it all the way back to the person that they were regurgitating it from. And I was like, hey, so this is what they're saying. This is why they say that you're wrong, even though you're doing fine. Here's how this the singular word choice that they're like fixated on. And here's even the account that they're parroting, because just to give you confidence that they also don't know what they're talking about. They're just parroting someone else. And that's like, in a nutshell, the entire experience of being in fitness and why so many people that can do really good work for their clients and in their little sect of the world in fitness feel so paralyzed is because there's a whole just generation of dorks that are, again, confounding fitness education, and just the pissing match of trying to be like a super viral social media entity for whatever reason.
Dude, it's gotten so lame. And I think that actually segues well into what I wanted to talk to you about, which is like kind of how you've navigated your social media strategy. Because for me, I think short form content has just gotten so painful. First off, like I think in order to make short form content that's not like a TikTok dance, if you're a coach and you're doing like trending TikTok dances, you find a new hobby, you're finding a new career. I mean, that is your hobby, making fucking TikTok dances. But like the effort it takes to curate like a 30 to 40-second reel to grab someone's attention and also have a good point, and also like obviously you're not going to explain anything. That's something I started doing on Instagram. I just stopped trying to explain things in detail, not what it's for. Also, the few people that might read that whole caption, I'll still do like some explanation, but I leave a lot to be desired. People that want to hear more, or they're going to go to YouTube and they're going to watch my 10-minute video on it, my 5-minute video on it, or they're going to come to this podcast, right? They're going to listen to an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever we're talking about. So if you want the real answer, you're going to go to long form content. I think just naturally I gravitate more towards long form content from a creation standpoint, which is part of why I'm doing this and part of why I've been really pushing YouTube. It's probably the last 7, 8 months now. So I just enjoy it more. And then I'll grab, I'm sure somewhere in here, I'll find a sound bite, something that sounds good, that fits the criteria I just mentioned for a reel. And I'll pull it from that and I'll use that as a funnel for, if you actually do give a fuck, you can come and listen here, or come watch the YouTube video or whatever. But yeah, dude, Instagram has just become less and less desirable for me. I'm going to post this and they're going to fucking nuke the shit out of my engagement. But you get what I mean? Like you go on there and it's just like some nerd with a cuff around his elbow doing some dumbass exercise telling you how like you need to maximize your stability, or it's some like fucking arm bar dumbbell curl that's literally gonna break your shoulder off, or it's what am I missing? I'm not even sure. Longevity training. It's some old white dude with tribal tattoos and a fucking RM watch on that telling me that I need to wear a weighted vest for my ruck. It's also on the Epstein list. Sorry. Dude, can you imagine? Hold on, sorry. Just imagine. Dude, there's no rules for this podcast. I chose, they make you choose an option of like explicit or not. I don't know. No, maybe. I don't know. What are they going to do? Send me an email? Anyways, can you just imagine, like if I was invited to dinner with somebody, what would I do? I would probably, and if I know who they were, I'd probably look them up first. If the first thing that I saw is like a prostitution charge and soliciting a minor, I'm not fucking going to dinner, much less dinner. If somebody in the fitness space invited me on a podcast, like, hey, Nick, I want you to be a guest on my podcast. I look that up. I see soliciting a minor. I'm not fucking going on the podcast. And all these people are being so like, oh, I knew it was that, but didn't think it was that big of a deal. And go fuck yourself. Yes, you did. You just didn't care. Sorry. What were you going to say?
Just as one step proxy to that, even just don't put anybody on a pedestal, bro. Just don't put.
Dude, do you remember?
There are no heroes. I don't remember what the fuck was it.
We were having a conversation. Dude, I had barely known you. I think maybe for a year. This would have been like 5-6 years ago, and we were talking about somebody, and we were like, don't meet your heroes because they probably suck.
Oh yeah, I remember exactly what we were talking about. I'm not going to say their name, but yeah. Man, is that true though? Like in today's climate, and that's how I'm going to phrase what you just talked about, but in today's climate, but literally don't put anybody on a pedestal, man, because like people are just, it's all smoke and mirrors, song and dance, which can be accurately depicted and represented by what you talked about with social media. And it's the difference between how I project mine and versus what is going to actually achieve the goal for many people, which is again, just mass eyeballs. It's a staunch, just like the, what is the exact phrase? Me and Mac have talked about this a ton of times, but like it's the not imposter syndrome. Oh damn it, what's the phrase? This is the first time in today's podcast that my dad brain is finally dad braining. Cognitive dissonance, that's the phrase I wanted to use. Between like imagine if I were to be on TikTok or do any trending sort of posting style, if you just see me go off script from, if you were to pull up my profile right now and just see the wall of black and white text, if you were to see it deviate, maybe every once in a while, like 3 times a year, it's a photo, and you're like, oh my God, is he hacked? Like what happened to him? Like it's because everything accurately represents me as a person. It accurately represents like my capacity to show up on this platform in the way that I can actually authentically give something back to the audience that I'm trying to give back to. Could you imagine if I were to be somehow swayed into doing, I remember when, the actual advent of my posting style was within the Prescript circle. We were just basically being pumped up like, hey guys, we want to be able to like repost you more often. We want to actually be able to share some of your content. So if you have an idea or if you want, like basically they were trying to encourage us to start getting on our horse and creating our own stuff. And I'm like, I think I did one carousel where it was basically the same thing, like black text, white stuff with some emojis involved. And I was like, okay, I can't force this. It looks dumb. But I also have no creativity to make something look polished, like an actual, like anything. So we're just going to revert. We're going to do exactly what I was doing. I'm going to do it long enough that people are like, that's genius. I'm also going to start doing that because everything else is stupid and this is amazing. I'm like, I just have 50% of it is I'm not creative. Like I'm a words guy. I'm not a creativity guy in any other means. 50% of it is like a complete rebellion against trends and everything like that because I'm old, I'm salty, and I think everything else is stupid.
And way like too old for emojis and trending audios.
No, I can't do dances. I can't do any of this stupid bullshit. I barely want to film. Like me, and then if you were to pull that thread one step further into the reels that I actually produce now, formerly 100% of my content was here's your tile that just has a topic and here's a max character limit caption, just explaining a concept. Maybe it's a little bit training, philosophical, whatever it might be. Here's my reel where it is literally about the same. Here's something someone lifting in the background. Here's me trying to explain something useful to them, not tearing them down, not being a fucking asshole to them in order to boost myself up. I genuinely am trying to, if they were to send me it, if they were a client, this is how I would respond to it, right? And then the third prong is like just doing like talking head, just talk straight into this camera. And that's what I'm going to do for my content. And it hits with the audience that I've very slowly curated over time, but it's a strong return on investment for the people that I have curated, as opposed to everything else out there where it's just like the value has been diluted to zero in terms of just maximizing reach.
Dude, pause there, because I agree so fully with that. And I think too, when I started doing YouTube, there's something that discouraged me a bit. Like I did YouTube for like a full year and I only got up to like 150 subscribers, something, right? I was like, fuck, dude, I'm not picking up traction. Like I get way more engagement on Instagram, or even posting on Instagram. Sometimes I'll get like 30 likes. My dude, how do I have like almost 5,000 followers and I get 30 likes? Like what the fuck's going on with the algorithm? You know, everyone, I love people like, oh, I'm fucking shadow banned. I'm like, no, you're not. Your content just sucks. Like I know if my content doesn't do well because it sucks. That's fine, because I probably didn't try very hard with whatever I made, right? That's more than fine with me. But anyways, like getting back into YouTube, I was like, well, actually what happened, the kind of like the light bulb that went off was I had a month where I got like 3 or 4 clients that signed up with me online that were like, oh yeah, I started watching your YouTube and I was like super interested. And I was like, I haven't posted on YouTube for over a year. I haven't posted. I was like, so you guys were going and watching, because it's not like Instagram where like no one's searching for posts on Instagram. It's like whatever's there and whatever they'll scroll back to is what they'll find. But like YouTube stuff, maybe you'll go find somebody or you'll search something in the search bar and like your video comes up. People will see it, right? And then they'll watch a full video, and maybe that's their introduction to you, and they'll go watch a couple more videos, right? It kind of lives there forever. It's okay. So, well, if I only have 150 subscribers, and let's say that I have, like right now, I can check the analytics, and you can see like reoccurring viewers. Like over the last 6 months, I can see how many people view like every video that I've ever made, or that I've made over the last 6 months. Okay, let's say I get 80 people that watch every video over the last 6 months. That's not a lot, but like, what are the odds that somebody who watches everything I put out, of those 80, what percentage is going to sign up? Like, what's the rule for social media? It's like maybe 1% of your following might be a client. Well, it's like, okay, if that's for Instagram, it's like for YouTube, it's got to be higher than that. Maybe it's like 10%, 20%. It's like, oh shit, that's like 16, 15, 20 clients, which is like a good bit of business for online coaching. So I started like looking at it more through that lens. And then two, it's like what you were saying too. It's like, what's going to be a sustainable, authentic method of me making content? Like YouTube, I fucking love doing. I love having a topic. I'll put some bullet points up. Sometimes I do nothing. I just have a topic and I let it rip. Sorry, Marshall. But like, I enjoy doing that, right? And then I can get my short form content from that. I can do a call to action at the end, whatever. But that's something that's enjoyable and sustainable. And two, people, it may reduce the number of people who I have consuming my content, because there's a barrier to entry being more long form, but I can still use that to funnel. I can cut up with Instagram, send on YouTube, or I can just accept like, okay, like I'm okay with there being less of an audience because I know this audience might convert more, right? Or they're just more interested in what I have to say, right? So they're more of a loyal audience.
Yeah, built. There's actually a statement that I think about often when I look at my followership versus other people, the amount of effort, my quality, like not that it's a huge lift to produce what I do, but like the amount of effort I put in to try to keep things as high quality as possible versus maybe some other people. Whenever I feel angsty about it, I just think like, okay, if I take, I think this is actually accredited. The thing is, I got it from Goob, maybe like that account. But like, if you were to take your entire followership and put them in a room, like that's it doesn't matter how small your account is. That's a lot of people listening to what you have to say, right?
Yeah.
So that genuinely, I'm like, oh wow, I have like 3,600 people in a room that are reading what that I generated from them, reading my posts, reading.
Well,
captions.
dude, you've done like seminars too. Yeah, like I think the most I've spoken to in like a seminar is maybe like 20 at once. And like that's pretty cool, dude. That's like, the room's kind of full depending where you are, but like that to me was like super rewarding, right? That like 20 people were like there to listen to me and engage and asking questions. So like you're saying, it's like whether it's I have 100 views on all my YouTube videos, like that's 100 people. Like if I was to sit down at my desk like I am right now and look out and see 100 people, I'd be like, oh fuck, that's like a pretty big audience, right? And then extrapolate that to Instagram where you're saying like, oh, I'm getting 3,000 views on all my posts or more. It's like a room of 3,000. So I like that point a lot.
Yeah, and like beyond that point, like the few times like when you really connect with people, you just start looking, as you were saying, at like who's the chronic likers of a post like this? Like the amount of effort it takes to get through my post, or as you're saying about YouTube, the amount of effort it takes the consumer to actually go through a YouTube video, that's speaking to you as the creator, like, oh, this person's in, and like this is someone that is genuinely interested in what I have to say. Like that's the highest quality potential lead and encouragement you should ever need. And then from my experience, and I'm sure with yours too, as you start to convert from like in person to online, and then online being almost a self-sustaining engine at some point, you start to realize like the higher the quality the lead as opposed to the mass amount of leads, those are the ones that when they sign up, they're there for years and years and years. And it's a couple of times a year, you might get a spike in people that want to sign up. And then you go through, at least for me, like periods where you're just kind of at equilibrium. Things are chilling right now. But to your point as well, with like people going back and watching some of your YouTube stuff and then you being like, wait, what? I, towards the end of the year last year, had through my Q&As, which I do, depending on if it's like really high quality questions too, I'll pop off. I will tank my engagement because like stories and Q&As, like, oh, I got shadow banned, like that kind of thing. Like, oh, but they will. Like Q&A stuff definitely like nukes your visibility for some reason.
But it literally, I used to think it was like so like mystical. I know how it worked. And like when you look into it, it makes perfect sense. Everything's about engagement, right? Like social Meta specifically wants to reward interaction. So like, for example, I figured out, you see me posting polls, and Nicole gave me the idea. It's okay, post a poll. It should get your engagement up because people interact with it. Now, if I add it, let me know down below. So now I have people that are both clicking yes or no or right or left or whatever, and they're replying below. I'm like looking at my story. I'm like, holy shit. Let's say I get like, I don't know, 400 or 500 views on my story a day. if I'm just like doing whatever, and it's like all of a sudden I'm posting these polls and I'm getting like 1,500 views on my story. I'm like, oh shit, it just tripled. It's like, well, Meta's rewarding me for posting something people are interacting with. Same as like if you post a link. If you see me put like link in bio, because if I post a link on my story every day, based off of one, they don't want you to click on the link and leave Instagram. They don't want that. They want you to stay on the app, unless you're going to shop somewhere where they're going to get commission on it or whatever. Two, it's like how many people are going to click the link. So if you have 500 people watching your story and like 5 click the link, that's a very low engagement rate, right? Same with the Q&A. So if you have, what'd you say, like almost 4,000 followers, and you have, 6 people reply to your question box with a question, dude, like 6 questions for a Q&A, sick. That's great. Like 6 slides of answering a question. That's pretty adequate for a day. I don't want to sit down and answer fucking 3 dozen questions, but they'll see as, okay, like, 6 of the 500 were engaged with your story. So now we're going to nuke you for the next 3 days, whatever it is. That's not exactly how it works, but like when you think about it that way, it makes sense how their model works.
Experientially, that's exactly how it works. But it's like, it's the sacrifice play where I know, and because you get really hung up on metrics, if people will farm out metrics as like the be all and end all, but you have to like look beyond them and see the ROI after the fact, where towards the end of last year, like my Q&As were really hot in terms of the amount of effort I was putting in and like the amount of questions I would get. And then I essentially started the blind technique reviews, and that exploded my interactions. It's exploded like everything that was doing.
Those are awesome.
Because it put a face to the words that people may not have known, but also it really helped establish the degree of detail that I see things in. It's not just me bullshitting. It's like, here's what's happening, and here's how I can help, or here's how I want you to also see it. And then almost immediately, like a month after starting those, I was same with like Marshall helps me out too. Like we're going back and forth. I was like, okay, we're going to start with like 2 per week. We'll see how it goes. And I was like, yo, I'm going to post them all. We got to go. Like I'm going to triple up. We got to start recording more. Like, let's go. But immediately off the back end of that, it launched a mentorship, which I've always been very, 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 very hesitant to do so, because too many people too fast in their career with nothing to offer will start it. And the people that are with me right now know, like, this is the first iteration. Like, as we go through this, as I learn what I want to offer and how I want to offer it, it's going to get tailored still. But within the confines of 3 months, it went from my posts doing well and my Q&A popping off to here's a reel and exploding things to here's a handful of people that are ready to do a full-on distinct and highest ticket service. Like they're ready to go. And it's all based upon the fact that I had built equity long-term over time, presenting an authentic depiction of my knowledge and my personality, as opposed to, like I was saying earlier, like looking for maximized reach. And you have to grapple with that. Everybody does, where it's like when something pops off, you immediately have to resist the urge, just like literally repeat it and just try to go for gold all over again. Be like, oh my God, this thing went viral for me. Let's just create it over and over and over. You have to let things naturally breathe and do their thing. But that's the major take on social media, being a trainer on social media and leveraging it, is knowing that you're on social media not to be a social media star. You're on social media for it to be a source of potential clients. And those two things look very different.
That's what I always tell the coaches that I work with, which I made an effort to never say mentorship. So I'm like, what am I? I'm fucking 28. I'm not your mentor. But that's why I say advisory. I'm like, I'm helping you with whatever I can help you with. Typically that's lessons that I learned in my business to help people expedite their coaching career, and whether that's systems, managing clients, assessing clients, I help them with training videos, that sort of stuff. Where was I going with that? Mentorship? I might just lost my train of thought. You give me dad brain there.
It's well, you and I are probably very similar with that, where I was like, even at 37 almost, I'm like, mentorship? Like, okay. I mean, like now I'm modeling in my head how I might do it, but it was way too prevalent by people that had no experience and nothing really to offer. And you would hear also the price tags you would hear, and you're like, wait, what? Like, just for that, go work in a commercial gym, get paid to do so, and they'll give you those skills in an insulated way that's going to see you succeed, as opposed to you farming like your entire life savings over to some dork on the internet with orange glasses on.
I shouldn't just pay a business coach. I thought that's the first step of being an online coach. That's what I was going to say, dude. I always tell coaches I work with that, your Instagram, social media is just a business card. Treat it like that. It's a business card. I don't give a fuck how many views you get. We can, for all the reasons we just described, we can look at analytics, numbers, and talk about marketing kind of stuff. But like, as a basic premise, don't give a fuck what your friends think. Do not give a fuck what I think. They're like, oh, but like you and Bugera follow me. What if I say something wrong? I don't care. Like I said, I'm probably not going to listen to it, and I'm probably still going to like it. you could say something that's fucking stupid and I might still like it and not read it. So now it's like, oh shit, maybe somebody will see that I liked it. I don't know. But like, dude, I remember when the whole like business coaching thing was more popular than it is now. And it's like, dude, you were just like a shitty trainer and you were bad at training. So you stopped training and then you tried online coaching and you're bad at online coaching too. So now you somehow conned other online coaches into paying you like 10K for a, I don't know, 8-month mentorship where you provide them no value. I've actually never heard any trainer ever that was like, oh yeah, I did so-and-so's business mentorship and now I'm fucking booming. Or yeah, I did so-and-so's like paid marketing thing where like now I'm just getting so many leads off these ads that I pay for. I've literally never heard that.
That's literally
Do you know
what
anybody at all?
about.
Dude, we're also like, we're surrounded by people. We're surrounded by friends, peers, whatever, who would probably have tried that. So we're in a pool of people where we should probably have at least, a couple of people that we know. I don't know a single person. I do not know a single person who's done like the paid leads thing or like hired a business coach that's, I think, doing marketing stuff. Like when I did marketing stuff with Nicole, that was fucking awesome for my business, which is like literally what you described for your own business, kind of a pathway of like, oh, I started doing like Q&As on my story. And then I started doing like the what do you call it? The blind technique review. I started doing that. And then I launched a program off of that. It's like that's fucking perfect marketing to a T, right? Or just like doing the tiles as like, that's your style. That's what you do. That's kind of like selecting your clients. Like that's true marketing. That's not what I mean when I say I'm hiring a marketing coach, but like the whole like business mentorship thing to me just always sounds like bullshit. You sound like you know a unicorn. Who's your unicorn? You know somebody who's actually successful off a business coach.
Yeah, I was gonna say as you were speaking to it, I was like, my mind went exactly the same direction. I'm like, I don't know anyone, not even amongst our peers, that would like, and all of our peers are successful in this space. I'm like, I don't know anybody that has been like, yeah, so I was floundering, I didn't know what I was doing, and then I got a business coach and it set me straight. I'm like, I don't know any of those people. All I know is people that ran headfirst through the wall, figured it out, failed, figured it out, failed, figured it out, failed, figured it out, until they got to the point where they had their systems in place. It's going to be unique to each individual. It's going to follow the same general framework because that's how literal business works. Like everybody has a framework to make themselves money, but it's going to be unique to them thereafter. I have one client who is they have a business coach and they have someone to do, they have media similar to the way that you and I will leverage with Marshall and like use some of his services just to like create right. things for us. Yeah. But they have one and they are happy with it. That was what it was. They have a lead magnet service as well, where it's like to specifically help to funnel them for certain leads. And it's like some paid service or whatever. It's not like an Instagram person. It's like an adjacent actual service that exists. And they're happy with it. And they're literally the only person I know that has ever been successful and happy with it. And if they listen to this, they know who they are.
So it does exist.
You would be successful without it, though. Well, I was going to say, they would be successful without it as well. Like whether they have used it enough to be able to do it on their own, or I truly believe that they would just run through the wall enough times that they would get it themselves. They're happy with it. They're successful with it. But them too, I don't see them as necessarily needing it.
Yeah, just to go back on what you were saying, not to make this turn into a 2-hour podcast, although I knew without having any plan for a podcast, we would talk for like 2 hours. Like just go work in person, like you were saying. I guys recorded a sick emerging ideas, shout out Prescript Collective with Jeremiah Bear. And we talked about like basically how to build an online coaching business without any of the business coaching, without any of the marketing stuff. Like, and it starts with working in person. It's like you said, like all the resources are provided for you. Like you have a gym. What's in the gym? People who work out. People who work out tend to have no idea what they're doing. Or they follow the broccoli-haired TikTok kid and they're doing some stupid shit he has them doing. Probably their shoulder hurts, their knee hurts. You're going to see them like grabbing something in between sets. Hey, how's your training going? Start a conversation. Oh, cool. Like now you have a person who might be willing to talk to you about training. Cool. They have a problem. Maybe provide them a solution. Now, okay, now you have somebody who might be interested in training, or maybe they'll tell their fucking friend or their cousin or somebody. And it's like, outside of that too, like they're just gonna provide you with leads if you're in a big box gym. I never worked in a big box gym. I've been in like a private gym, basically private, whatever the fuck you call it, basically my whole career. But yeah, like if you start with big box, like they're gonna give you leads, they're gonna give you resources. Obviously they take a lot of your money because of that. You start to build a skill set in a variety of ways that will carry over to whether you want to do your own independent business, whether you want to, transfer those clients to online or move to online at some point in your career. But that's a great starting point, but it doesn't need a $10,000 investment in a business coach.
Yeah, the price tags are wild. And I've had too many people that I know actually like when I say too many people I know, I mean the one person that's successful. And as you're speaking, there was one person that was not successful that it came top of mind. It was like, I want to say tens of thousands of dollars that they invested to try to like launch their own business, like their own like larger scale style of business. I'm like, wow. And you thought my training services were too expensive for you, but I digress.
Yeah.
But no, like a box
They're
gym,
not, by
like
the way.
no,
Charge more money to
they're
Bugera.
not. A box gym is specifically invested in your success because of the split of take. Like they are going to generate revenue off of your revenue. So they are going to teach you the things that are going to help you be successful. And from someone that went through that system, it literally is like kids gloves, business administration 101 tailored to a personal trainer. It's like, it's designed to set you up. And then when I've seen some of the things that the other like the larger scale mentorships and things like that, higher ticket items will do, I'm like, oh, this was the 20-minute meeting I had with my fitness manager every day of my life, telling me to have a schedule and to do outreach and to hold myself accountable to having a schedule and doing outreach and maybe work out and have some social proof that I know what I'm talking about. Got it. Here's how to have here's how to do like the sales call or the closing conversation or any of those things, whatever phrase you want. It's like, that's a box gym, except you're like, for, I don't know, I don't want to be that boomer that's like, kids today, do the hardest version of it. Like learn that the online space is super nerfed. It's super easy because I had to do cold approaches. I had to do cold calls. I had to do a lot of things that for my personality type was like terrifying. Like my first gig in a box gym in Canada, like the box gym in Canada. I worked in the inner city, like downtown location in Winnipeg, and young me thought like, well, it's downtown. That's gonna be great. It's gonna be fucking popping. There's gonna be so many people that get there. And it's like, no, it's where personal training went to die. Like there's no one there. And then I stuck it out. I survived, and I was eventually successful. But the grind and the death grind, for lack of a better term, like taught me how to like just win everywhere. But then the second time I came back after going back to school for a while, I was actually at the launch of the gym that I was going to work at. And it was in a much better part of the city for personal training. It was more of a residential area. It was way, 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 way better. But in doing so, they're like, okay, so launch is on this day, and you and this person, another super socially awkward person that is now still to this day one of my good friends, you guys are going to go to this grocery store that's like a couple, like a kilometer or whatever, a mile or two away, and you're just going to walk around with like day passes and be like, hey, our launch, and you're just going to cold approach people. What? But it's like those kind of things that make it takes away your anxiety of so many different things that you would have to do. Translate that to approaching someone cold on the gym floor when you see them daily, they see you daily, you're wearing a name tag, you work for the place, and you're a trainer and they know that, as opposed to, hey, you want to go to the gym when you're buying your breakfast cereal? Like, no, it's a very different experience. It breaks the ice so much easier, where other people, generally speaking, one of the hardest things they'll do in person or even online is that first approach. Like sending someone a DM is terrifying. Like, what are you talking about? It's pixels. If they say no or they don't respond or they block you, it's like they never existed. It's fine. As opposed to, I'm going to go cold approach this person and they could literally just fight me. Like that's what could happen. Like,
did I think of like the Jehovah Witness going around like knocking on doors? So I've had it happen with like walking with my wife, and they'll ask her whatever, and she starts speaking in Spanish. Like, oh, no hablo inglés. And then one time, one of them starts speaking, like this white guy starts speaking to her in fluent Spanish. And she's like, oh, fuck. Like,
it just runs.
Like, dude, that dude has no fear at all. And that dude's learned, right? That dude's probably learned Spanish by proxy of having that same excuse used so many times. He's like, fuck it, I'm going to learn Spanish so that this is no longer an issue.
Yeah, it's like me having we got cameras at my place for low key. It's basically to see if there's any animals in our backyard in the middle of the night, which is sick. Like we've all the foxes, all the raccoons, everything else is cool. But also like we have one at our front door, obviously for security, but also like, yo, somebody just knocked on my door. And oh, you're just trying to sell me different internet. Definitely not answering you, bro. You're gonna have to be more sly than that. Like I'm not gonna come to the door and tell you to fuck off, but I'm definitely gonna just not answer. Like fuck this.
Dude, that's like, I have a Ring camera for the same reason. Like literally, I only use it to see if like Amazon delivered my package, or if like one time I had a neighbor that like from another building that came in and was yelling at another neighbor because like they put their wrong recycling box in the recycling instead of the trash.
I'll miss that.
Dude, I was waiting for your response. I can't tell you, especially with the snow we had. I've never been so close to assaulting somebody than in the last couple of weeks with people that do. When it snows and parking spots get like covered up, you have to shovel your parking spot out. People go insane. Like America has gotten so fucking soft. It's like such a boomer. I'm like, dude, back in my day, there's no fucking way it was like this. But not to digress. I've already gotten my one strike with the longevity comments, so we'll save anything else political for another podcast. We'll end with some segment kind of stuff. I'm gonna ask some guests all the same questions. Right now, fitness industry, love it and leave it. Is there anything particularly going on right now that either like you're hot on, maybe something you're getting into, maybe something you just generally see that you're enjoying, that the industry is doing on a positive side? And on the flip side, what's trending right now that you think should just be left alone?
Yeah, at least in the circles that I'm in, because this is going to be very individual based on your echo chambers, but I see a lot of my friends and a lot of really good people putting out a lot of really good content, refuting and pushing back against a lot of like the women's training bullshit. I'm thinking of people like Sheridan Sky and like a ton of other of my, like, to be fair, like they're people I follow, they're my friends, but they're like going after it. Like they're basically the narratives that having to train specifically for phases, having to train specifically for like if you're pregnant, like there are things, there's guidelines for sure, but there's a lot of snake oil out there or just misinformation that would cause women specifically in different phases of life or different even phases of their menstrual cycle to train absurd or to feel like they're fragile or just generally speaking, complete bullshit that's out there. So I'm seeing a lot of like people that I respect and that I like really going to bat and starting to tear that down, which is really cool. Something that I'm on and then something I want to basically fuck off. Yeah, it's like generational basically. Like you raise longevity for a completely distinct purpose, but like it's kind of along the same line of like the longevity thing where, don't get me wrong, like we're all going to go through different iterations of our career. Like Shallow is no longer necessarily a power lifter, right? Like he had that phase of his life. Junta is definitely no longer a CrossFitter. He had that phase of his life. I am deep apparently into I represent all parents. That's basically my lived experience on the internet now. I am the parent of our group. Got it. But like seeing people completely change their entire presentation, their entire demeanor, their entire like product line packaging based upon like, oh, I went from being age 30 to age 40. Now I'm going to get into longevity. Now I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm like, man, I'm sus on people that do the hard pivot, like super hard pivots. Cause I'm like, so how much were you successful before and how much did you actually know before? But specifically into things like the longevity aspect. And like we have friends, we have colleagues that tap dance on it or speak to it in the most authentic way. Like I'm thinking about Dwayne right now, because I know he's made content about a huge array of things, but most recently I troll a lot about like mitochondrial biogenesis and blah, 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 blah. And like out of one side of my eye, I'm like, Dwayne's over there doing God's work, doing good shit. But I'm like, for the average longevity person, average whatever, when they talk about mitochondrial biogenesis, I'm like, so what you're really saying is that you hit age 50 and you realized cardio is good. Because none of this is new. 0%, like it can go all the way back to people saying zone 2. Back in my day, it was low intensity steady state, or it was like I need a heart rate of 100 to 120 or whatever it might be. Like ascribe, like maybe it's again my boomer is coming out with like new phrases and terms I push back on, but primarily like the thing that I lose me with it or like fuck it off is the transition to everything being like, how do we biohack or how do we longevity hack or how do we optimize our health and stuff like that, when it's like, okay, so these things existed the whole time. You're not reinventing the wheel. You're maybe reterming things to give yourself a product to sell. But it's, to me, a lot of times it's a reflection on the person's lack of health or their self-abuses leading to a point of their life where they can no longer get away with that. And then their physical appearance or their product lines are going to pivot hard because they can no longer display what they used to sell because their body's literally breaking down. Like that sort of general area of fitness.
Like, I don't know what's worse. You're talking about like the onset of longevity training, but like really it's not new. I'm thinking of like the bulletproof coffee guy, which is funny because I listened to him on Mind Pump a while ago, and he's like actually kind of cool. least he sounded cool. I don't respect the podcast or the butter and coffee or whatever the fuck stupid shit, but I'm like, I'd rather my client get a NAD plus enema than drink bulletproof coffee. Don't sue me. They won't listen to this. I can say whatever I want to. But yeah, it's such a funny landscape. I think too what you were saying, like if a coach is like constantly rebranding, like if you rebrand every 6 months, what are you doing? You don't have a brand. That's why my podcast is unbranded. My business is unbranded. Like I don't have a brand. It's just me, and like we're doing things, and whatever you want to associate with the brand is cool with me, right? I think a lot of it, if you do enough work and put enough stuff out there, your brand will start to mold itself, you know?
That's exactly my entire brand, for lack of a better phrase, is like, I'm just going to keep putting out authentically the same thing over and over. And then and that's really how a brand is generated, is whatever is authentic to you, you just keep putting it out there, like topic wise, presentation wise, whatever. And eventually people recognize that as you. Like I'm not the first person to do captions. I'm not the first person to do anything that I'm doing, like talking head, like me floating over someone working out. But sure as shit, in the circles that we run in, as I became more and more consistent, like set your watch to 10 a.m. my time, my post is coming out probably Monday through Friday, unless something goes sideways. All of a sudden I start seeing more people doing like captions, or they're going to start analyzing their footage for their followers. They're going to analyze their clients' footage floating. Like none of us are the first to do it, but that is like the brand association from consistency. Consistency happens over and over, just like that, organically.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think too, people are going to see success and try to emulate it. And it's just, that is what it is. But you're doing it really well. What else was I going to say? If you had to go back, if you were to do something differently, would you do anything differently?
I often say no. I actually got in trouble because I misinterpreted the question for my master's thesis, which is hilarious enough because like one of the guys on my committee asked me that. He literally meant in terms of how might I alter the study if I knew what I knew now. And I was like, nah, I don't. I perceived it as the way that you phrased the question. I was like, knowing what how might you go back and change? I have no regrets. I learned a lot. I would literally just do it the way I did. It's more or less how I go about things. Like the pace I took, the route I took, like, it's what got me here. It's how I learned, whatever. He got annoyed because I was like, oh, you mean knowing how I effed this up or whatever? Like, no, ask me again. I understand your question now. But no, like in the context that you're asking, honestly, nah. Like I did in person twice. Some people would say I should have gone online sooner. Some people rag me all the time about my prices. I'm in a fantastic position in life and in the industry, and it's because of me doing things at the pace and at the authentic sort of presentation that we've spoken to, the way that is best representative of me and my ability to sustain it. So I don't think I've really changed anything.
Fuck yeah, love that answer. Well, let's finish with the one I've been making you sit on for the last hour and a half. What's your not a hot take? I think we both get annoyed with like everything online being a hot take. Like, oh, here's a hot take, don't do this, or like, you're a fucking idiot if you're listening to this person. But I think like a lot of hot takes that are thrown out there, they're not rooted in any sort of explanation. They're just being contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. So do you have either one, a hot take that you firmly believe in, or one that's not a hot take at all and you just think like it's not put out there enough?
It's probably right up the middle. It's maybe a hot take for some people, maybe really obvious for others, but trainers need to kind of get off the high horse and like stop presenting like basically it's not as so far as to say like the optimality length of things, but like not everything you say, do, or present needs to be fitness related, even though we are all in the fitness space. People also need to know who you are, and that's I know that's pretty rich coming from the guy that hides from the internet, posts captions, and then the only time I do reels is like fitness related. But at the same time, all of my written posts is in one way or another, it actually is representative of who I am based on how I speak, how I write, how all that kind of stuff, right? But getting away from every single thing needs to be almost a caricature or a meme of fitness, like presenting who you are behind the actual fitness personality, because people are looking for knowledge in terms of a trainer or a coach, but they're also looking for someone to connect to. And if everything is always just like, here's the only facet of who I am, the only facet of my personality, you're missing an opportunity to have the long-term clients that connect with you as a person. To sort of put a point on that, I'm pretty sure I know the answer for you too, but from in person to now, I have some clients that have been with me for 5 years. I have, on average, probably about 3 years running since I've been online too. Like, people stay with me for a very long time, because the social proof, or the proof of concept for my knowledge base, is very well established. It's there. It's been there for a long time, even just from my degree or whatever it might be. But beyond that, it's primarily from just connecting with these people as people. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a service industry. Like, we're providing a service, and at the end of the day, it's like there is a human interaction, there is communication, there's a relationship built. You know, I think a lot of people don't realize that when they're getting into personal training. I remember my mom was always on me when I was like interning in a physical therapy clinic. She's like, "Do you want to do physical therapy? You're gonna be like touching people all day long and like having conversations with boomers." And like, I'm like, I think I have good people skills. You know, like, I don't mind that at all. But too, I'll see like, you know, peers or even just like kids that want to do personal training. It's like, dude, your people skills suck. Like, you know, you're gonna have to talk to somebody for a full hour. Like, you're not going to sit in silence. If you get super awkward, like, you're going to have to care about the other person and their interests, and like ask them questions and be engaged. It's not just like, well, you need to get the angle of your humerus here so you can do this pull around for your lat engagement. They won't give a fuck about that. They want to know that you know their dog's name and their kid's name and whatever else. Right?
what was I doing? I was still in school. I was like working the circulation desk at the gym. I was like halfway doing personal training, halfway just like sort of babysitting the gym. I just remember my wife at the time, she was just there about to work out. She's standing at the desk hanging out with us for a minute. A complete rando comes up to the desk, and we started having a fluid conversation like we were best friends. And she's like, "Oh, who the fuck was that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I didn't even get their name. I don't know who the fuck that is." And it's just purely from being able to mirror and reflect the person's mannerisms, their attitude, and have a like a human conversation with someone like a human, based upon being able to run the example you gave, running hours of conversations adjacent to the fitness that is currently happening, just being able to be a human.
Dude, I love when I get uncomfortable clients now, especially in person. Like, I have a client like definitely on the spectrum. So like, that was a bit of a challenge to me from a communication standpoint, and even like being okay with a little bit more silence. I've had one other one in the past, but it's been like 5 years or so. So like, to me, that was like, it's a good challenge, right? Because like, a lot of the challenges we think of are like, oh, this person's whatever hurts and we can't figure out why, right? And this is like much less about that, much more about like, oh, this is like purely the challenges in communication. I think that's huge. I'm not going to ramble on to any, well, not longer at all. If people want to find you, I would ask you here what you're working on, but you know, we talked about you kind of doing more life things and being a real human and not being an asshole like me and working too much. Where can those people who would like to find you, where can they find you at?
Yeah, the major platform is just social media. So Instagram at Eric Bugera is my handle. So just my name. That's where you'll find all my Q&As that go out. So just general fitness or life questions. You'll see blind technique reviews. You'll see written content. Either it's about fitness or it's about training philosophies or personal trainer sort of trouble, stuff like that. I currently have online customized programming, like pretty much one-to-one online programming, as well as a mentorship. Mentorship is very, very small cohorts, so I have space for about one more person, at least at the time point right now. Training is about to be waitlisted as well. Again, sort of putting a cap on the amount of people I'm working with. So if you're interested, maybe reaching out there ASAP. What I am potentially doing to provide additional services that are a little bit easier for me to pocket into my lifestyle as well is I'm currently designing, most likely what it's going to be is instead of a blind technique review where I use it as marketing, use it as content, and it's public for everybody, offering a paid service where essentially it's extended loom sort of breakdown of someone's technique. So a one-to-one kind of technique review to make it a little bit easier to facilitate someone having like a really quick consult or really quick one-off sort of conversation.
Yeah. Even like, I'll do that a bit. Part of my advisory, I don't, instead of coaching, it's just like, yeah, send me your videos, I'll give you form feedback and I'll help you out with whatever I can. Yeah, you should definitely do that. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you, man. One last thing, I gotta find the camera. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify or whatever, comment below. If you know somebody who has succeeded from working with a business coach, who is now sitting on a yacht with their laptop open, living the fucking dream because their online coaching business is booming, comment below, let me know. Eric, appreciate you, man.